Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News at 8 p.m. on LA56.
A rare show of support for President Obama from House Republicans. The House approved his game plan to help Syrian rebels in the fight against ISIS.
Scotland has been part of the United Kingdom for 3 centuries. That could change with the vote tomorrow. What that would mean for the United States.
And a drug and alcohol scandal didn't stop him, but a tumor did. Now doctors confirm Toronto's controversial mayor Rob Ford has cancer. Good evening. I'm Mark Brown in for David Ona.
And I'm Colleen Sullivan. Welcome to Eyewitness News on LA56. The House of Representatives have approved President Obama's plan to arm Syrian rebels to fight ISIS. The measure now goes to the Senate. This as President Obama has repeated his pledge, no boots on the ground.
I will not commit you and the rest of our armed forces to fighting another ground war in Iraq.
In a packed gym at MacDill Air Force Base, the president told the troops that the U.S. cannot wage the Iraqis' battle against the extremist group that's taken hold of large swaths of the northern part of that country.
This is not and will not be America's fight alone.
President Obama received a briefing on ISIS today from top military officials, a day after the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff seemed to open the door to more U.S. involvement in Iraq if airstrikes are not enough.
If we reach the point where I believe our advisors should accompany Iraq troops on attacks against specific ISIL targets, I'll recommend that to the president.
Right now, the 1,700 U.S. troops in Iraq are at a command center in the northern city of Erbil or U.S. facilities in Baghdad. Adding American military to Iraqi embeds would be a significant step, one that's not being ruled out by the administration. Secretary of State John Kerry was on Capitol Hill today trying to make the case that the U.S. is pulling together a coalition of international partners to fight ISIS.
The question that foreign leaders were asking me was not whether they should join the coalition, but how they can help.
And Iraq's prime minister said today he will not ask or allow foreign troops to be stationed in Iraq. He said the U.S. and international partners will help with airstrikes and there won't be a blank check for attacks.
The September heat wave finally eased up a bit today and more relief is on the way. But even with a drop in extreme temperatures, it was still hot enough to cause some trouble out there. In the San Fernando Valley, we found several drivers tending to cars that had either broken down or overheated. In San Bernardino, parents had to pick up their kids from school early after the air conditioning went out. And the power grid continues to be pushed to its limit, with utility companies asking customers to avoid using major appliances until the evening. Meanwhile, the remnants of Tropical Storm Odile are now pounding Arizona. Up to 7 inches of rain are in the forecast there. In fact, Tucson could get more rain in the next few days than it has seen all year. All day long, families filled sandbags trying to protect their homes from the onslaught. Flash flooding could last through the weekend. Arizona was still drying out from a storm that caused severe flooding last week. Jonathan Novak is here now to tell us about the diminishing heat, and that's certainly good news.
It is very good news. Today was the beginning of it. I know if you're outside, you probably were saying, well, it's still pretty hot out. It was, but it was the beginnings of what will be a pretty significant cool down. We had some showers, just a couple of them down to the southeast of our area today, and some rain up to the northern portions of California. But the storms we had yesterday were out of the picture for today, and on top of it, temperatures moderated slightly. Chatsworth, and I say only 100 comparably. It was cooler overall. Lake Elsinore only 101.97 in Anaheim. Those are your highs today. Long Beach, 78 degrees right now, and other temperatures around the area. 85 Santa Clarita, 85 in Burbank, which compared to this time last night is 6 degrees cooler. It's 8 degrees cooler than it was this time last night in Van Nuys and 14 degrees cooler in Santa Ana. So the temperatures are getting to where we can finally tolerate the high temperatures. By tomorrow, we're only in the lower 80s by noon. Details on how cool it will get in the 7-day forecast coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Jonathan, thank you.
Welcome.
The Mexican government is evacuating tens of thousands of tourists from Cabo San Lucas in the aftermath of Hurricane Odile. Nearly 700 U.S. tourists were flown to a military base in Tijuana before catching buses to San Diego. Others are being flown to different cities around Mexico to transfer to connecting flights home. Hurricane Odile made landfall Sunday night as a Category 3 storm, causing widespread damage. And now a new storm is threatening the already battered Baja Peninsula.
The Los Angeles City Council approved a $50,000 reward today today for information leading to the arrest and conviction of a hit-and-run driver. The driver fatally struck a man and injured 2 others waiting at a Koreatown bus stop in July. At a news conference today, police identified the suspect as Freddie Mendez. Police believe the 38-year-old was behind the wheel of a Ford F-150 truck when it ran a red light, collided with a Toyota, and slid off the road into the bus stop. Javier Hernandez was pronounced dead at the scene. 2 other people were critically injured. Hernandez's family wants the public's help.
We want justice, and we don't want that guy to be up there, because we know not just that guy, but there's a lot that hit and runs. They're up there, and I mean, we got to do something about it.
Police say the suspect may have fled to his native El Salvador.
The family of an unarmed black man killed by Los Angeles police filed a federal civil rights lawsuit today seeking $75 million in damages. Lawyers for Ezell Ford's parents say the family also wants officers to face criminal charges. Police say Ford, who was mentally ill, tried to grab an officer's gun during a struggle last month. The shooting sparked protests across the city.
They knew that he was basically helpless and harmless. And yet they proceeded to attack him, bring him to the ground, and shoot and kill him without justification.
The Ford family attorney is the same man who represented Rodney King 22 years ago. The LA City Attorney's Office had no comment today, saying they have not yet seen the lawsuit.
2 of the NFL's brightest stars tonight benched. Vikings running back Adrian Peterson under fire for how he disciplined his child, and Greg Hardy of the Carolina Panthers now benched indefinitely over charges of domestic violence. ABC's Ryan Smith has details.
Tonight, in a huge about-face, the Minnesota Vikings bowing to public pressure, sidelining their biggest star, Adrian Peterson. Just yesterday, the team said Peterson would play Sunday, despite his indictment for allegedly beating his 4-year-old son with a tree branch.
We made a mistake, and we needed to get this right.
But as the Vikings owner apologized, some of Peterson's teammates rallied behind him.
People blowing it out of proportion, and I don't think it's fair at all. I think, he should be able to play. He hasn't been convicted of nothing.
Then, just hours later, another NFL bombshell. The Carolina Panthers benching one of their stars, Greg Hardy, who was convicted of assaulting his ex-girlfriend. A neighbor calling 911.
We need the police here now, before this girl gets seriously hurt, now.
Hardy will face a new trial, but until today, he has never faced any kind of punishment from the NFL. Today's twin announcements come in the middle of the worst week in the history of professional football. And through it all, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has been largely silent, virtually invisible. It was just last year that Sports Illustrated named him the most powerful person in sports. NFL revenue up 25%. That's $3 billion since he became commissioner.
This was a commissioner that was never shy to hold a press conference. At some point, you need to show your face. You can't just hire people to make these problems go away.
It has now been over a week since Roger Goodell has spoken in public. And where do things stand in former FBI Director Robert Mueller's independent investigation of the NFL's handling of the Ray Rice situation? Well, our sources tell us they have yet to reach out to the Atlantic City casino where Ray Rice assaulted his wife, nor have they reached out to local authorities. Ryan Smith, ABC News, New York.
We now know why Toronto Mayor Rob Ford is no longer seeking re-election. He's battling cancer. His doctor confirmed the diagnosis during a news conference today. Ford has been in the hospital for a week with a tumor in his abdomen. The doctor described the cancer as a rare type that occurs in fat cells and other soft tissue, and he says it has already spread.
It has 60 different cell types, and that's what makes it a very rare tumor and a very difficult tumor. However, we are optimistic about this tumor.
The mayor will begin chemotherapy within the next 2 days. Ford had dodged calls from resigning from office following a drug and alcohol scandal and a stint in rehab. But on Friday, he withdrew his re-election bid to undergo treatment. His brother, Doug Ford, is now running in his place.
The people of Scotland will decide tomorrow whether to end a partnership with the rest of the United Kingdom that has stood for more than 300 years. Eyewitness News reporter Alex Michelson reports from a Scottish-themed bar in Atwater Village, where local Scots will be watching the polls closely.
Scotland is full of historic landscapes. The basic outline of Scotland's borders have been in place since the 13th century, and it's been united with England for hundreds of years. Now a group of Scots are asking their fellow citizens to vote yes on breaking away from the United Kingdom and running the entire government through the Scottish Parliament.
Scotland is a nation, and I think it's a universal law that the best people to govern a nation are those who live and work in it.
It's the one opportunity you've got to break the imperialistic sort of hold that Westminster has got over the whole country.
If Scottish independence wins, the UK will lose a sizable chunk of its land and population. UK will need to find a new home for its nuclear weapons that are currently housed in Scotland, and there'll be a huge shake-up in the British Parliament. UK would also lose $9 billion in tax revenue from Scottish oil.
It's time for Scots to make decisions for Scotland.
But Scotland could lose its membership in the European Union, and Scots could lose their currency. London says it won't share the pound. Those campaigning for a no vote say leaving is simply too big a risk.
If we vote to leave, there is no going back.
Let's keep our UK pension. Let's keep our UK pound. Let's keep our UK passport. You will not have our support.
Polls predict a huge voter turnout and an almost evenly split electorate.
Of course, everyone who cares about our United Kingdom, and I care passionately about our United Kingdom, is nervous, but I'm confident that we've set out how Scotland can have the best of both worlds.
Here at Morrison's in Atwater Village, a Scottish-themed bar, customers say they're watching this vote closely.
The nuclear stuff is scary. Anytime you hear nuclear, it's scary.
The response I've got from people who've come in here from Scotland is that, leave it alone, let it work. It's working.
I really just hope that they continue to make great whiskey.
That's priority number one?
Number one.
And there's plenty of Scottish food here to go with that whiskey. Now, even if independence passes, it'll be at least until 2016 until Scotland is totally free from the United Kingdom. Reporting from Atwater Village, Ellis Michelson, ABC7, Eyewitness News.
Up next, a kayaker rescued more than 20 miles off our local shoreline.
Plus, armored vehicles, grenade launchers, and M16 rifles, all in possession of the LA Unified School District School Police. Tonight, what the district has decided to do with all that equipment.
And take your dog for a walk at a $100 ticket. The new law all dog owners need to know.
Liza Minnelli hospitalized. I'm George Panacchio. Details in tonight's Hollywood Wrap. Plus, Joan Rivers news. And attention Easy Rider fans. In the market for a new motorcycle? The story coming up.
Free surplus military gear in the hands of school police. Armored vehicles, grenade launchers, and M16 rifles have been given to school police departments across the country. But now the LAUSD says it is getting rid of some of its military hardware. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda tells us why.
It's called a mine-resistant, ambush-protected armored vehicle. The Los Angeles School Police won't show us the one it got, but it looks just like the one in this video, which was sent to the San Diego Unified School District.
It's intimidating. I mean, just looking at it, it's a scary image.
The vehicle cost $730,000, but the LA School Police got it free under a federal program that gives surplus equipment to local law enforcement. The department also received dozens of M16 assault rifles and 3 grenade launchers. All of this comes after the tragedy in Sandy Hook that left 26 dead.
I'm sure there may be, sadly, some unfortunate situations where they could possibly need something like that. On this day and age, there are so many crazy people. I don't know. You know, it's tricky.
I think there's a lot of other people that can probably do a better, have probably more training, can step in a little bit quicker and probably better than the LAUSD police.
The school police would not talk on camera today. In a statement, the LAUSD said it returned the grenade launchers because they're not essential for the department, but they are keeping the other equipment. While we recognize this armored vehicle is military grade, it is nevertheless a life-saving piece of equipment that the district would not otherwise have. We will continue to keep it in our inventory as we evaluate our best options for ensuring we have the most appropriate life-saving rescue vehicle in our current inventory. Parents we spoke with wonder, is this really necessary for a school police department?
I think that is too much for a school district. I don't know why that's necessary at all.
I can't imagine if they'd ever use it at an elementary school, but really for any students it doesn't seem necessary.
I'm Carlos Granda, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
If you're caught walking your dog without a leash in the city of LA, get ready to pay some big bucks. Under a new ordinance that could take effect next month, the first offense will cost you $100, the second $250, and get caught a third time, it'll cost you $500. Some pet owners welcome the new law, but others do not agree with it.
I think it's reasonable. I mean, a lot of us love our pets. They're like family, you know, and the leash is really a form of protection for them.
There's so few people that are going to be enforcing it. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a chance for them to get more money.
LA City Councilman Paul Corrett says the new law could bring a couple $1 million to the city, but says the real reason for the new ordinance is he and other members of the city council were getting a lot of complaints about dogs running around neighborhoods.
The Coast Guard came to the rescue of a distressed kayaker off the coast of Newport Beach today. They got the call just before 9 in the morning. Rescuers say the woman on board the kayak was showing signs of dehydration and exhaustion. They picked her up and took her to the hospital, but they say her symptoms were not considered to be serious or life-threatening. The Coast Guard cutter towed her kayak back to shore.
And of course, all ears are on you right now, Jonathan, because you said cooler weather. We like that.
Word. How about that word? I could barely say it. Cooler.
I know.
It's hard to say because it just hasn't been that way. We haven't had below average temperatures in 2 weeks, but we will tomorrow. Okay. Oh, yes. I know. We like that. Check out what's happening on our live Megadoppler 7000 HD forecast coming up here with the time-lapse from Dave. Check this. This is really cool, guys. Check this out. Our time-lapse from LAX. Looking out over the higher elevations. Some storms yesterday. Today, try to get going, but just not enough instability to fire up too much. Although, let's check out the radar. You'll see live Megadoppler 7000 HD sweep heading around. And on loop mode, few showers southeast of where we saw the severe weather yesterday moved south. So it was pretty calm and a little cooler. Could you feel it a little bit today? Temperatures dropped, not a ton. I'll give you an idea. It was 96 in downtown today for a high. It was 103 yesterday. So still well above the average of 83, but we're making improvements slowly but surely. 85 in Burbank right now, 83 in Riverside. It's warm, but it's not unbearable. 84 in Palmdale, 95 in Palm Springs, and upper 70s as you head to Long Beach and mid-70s in Santa Monica. Good evening to you. And again, I love this map because this is showing the trend. 24-hour temperature change from this time last night this shows you that we are 2 to 3 degrees cooler in Palm Springs over to Riverside, and about 6 to 8 degrees cooler from Burbank to Van Nuys, 8 degrees cooler in Long Beach than this time last night. Temperatures are going down. This is what's left of Odile, right? And it's bringing a lot of moisture. We were talking about that just a little bit earlier in the newscast, and that's going to continue to bring lots of rain to portions of the southwest U.S., but not us. We don't have enough instability or moisture in the air. Here's what we have. High pressure that has shifted off to the east and low pressure that has really dug in to the western portion of the country. That onshore flow is going to do several things. First of all, you know it's going to bring the marine layer back tomorrow in full force. It's going to bring the temperatures down. And watch the future scan. It shows this right here, a cutoff low is what we call that. Kind of separates from the atmosphere a little bit. It's going to hang out on Friday and even into Saturday. That spells cooler weather for 3 days, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, before high pressure builds back in again for the end of the weekend into next week. All right, so tonight, clear, warm. The marine layer is back in place, 65 as you head to the morning lows in the L.A. area. 83 tomorrow for a high in L.A. and mid-70s at the coast. So much better than we've been seeing the last week or so. That heat wave is done. 7-day forecast, LA Metro and Orange County. Fridays, awesome. 79, how about that? Well below average. Lower 80s for the weekend. No rain in sight, although Friday, with that cutoff low hanging offshore, we could see a deep enough marine layer at the foothills, some of the coastal slopes, to give a little bit of a sprinkle, possibly some drizzle in the morning. 80s for the valleys, 70s down to the 60s in the mountains, just some clouds, beautiful weather overall, and even the high desert looking good. Temperatures below 90 for the next 3 days. Another look at the weather coming up in a few minutes. Back to you guys at the desk.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks a lot. In tonight's Hollywood Wrap, Liza Minnelli in the hospital.
Plus, get your motor running. You too have the chance to be wild. George Pinocchio is here with details. But first, some troubling information in the death of Joan Rivers.
This story's going to be around for a while, I'm sure. There's a new twist in the death of Joan Rivers. She died a week after going into cardiac arrest during a surgical procedure in New York. Now, CNN reports while Rivers was under anesthesia, her personal ear, nose, and throat doctor was taking a selfie. According to CNN, that's the same doctor who was performing an unscheduled, unauthorized biopsy on Rivers when she went into cardiac arrest. CNN also reports that the hospital staff found no signed consent form from Rivers and that the ENT doctor was not certified to operate at that clinic. Liza Minnelli is recuperating after undergoing back surgery. Liza is in an unnamed California hospital. She had surgery earlier this week. She injured herself after an accident with one of her dogs. She was picking one up, twisted, fell, broke her back, and had to have it fused. Minnelli is thanking her fans for all their well wishes, saying, quote, "I am overwhelmed with the amount of love and caring that has been sent my way from all over the world." The 68-year-old entertainer is expected to make a full recovery. The once homeless man who went to the MTV Video Music Awards with Miley Cyrus reported to an Oregon courtroom. Jesse Helt is facing a probation violation charge. 4 years ago, he and a friend allegedly tried to break into the home of a man who he claims sold him bad marijuana. Helt arrived at court 45 minutes late yesterday afternoon. The judge warned he'll need to, quote, "pack a toothbrush if he is late to court again." Helt left and flashed an obscene gesture to photographers as he drove away from the Polk County Courthouse. He's due back in court October 7th. And it's famous for its American flag gas tank. Now the Captain America motorcycle Peter Fonda rode in the 1960s movie Easy Rider is going on the auction block. 4 motorcycles were created for the movie, but only this one is known to have survived. Local businessman Michael Eisenberg, who bought the motorcycle from actor Dan Haggerty last year, is now putting the customized chopper on the auction block.
Dan Haggerty, Mr. Grizzly Adams, was the motorcycle wrangler hired by Peter Fonda to take care of the bikes. So at the end of the filming, Peter gave Dan Haggerty this motorcycle. And this is the bike that's the symbol of that born to be wild, get on the motorcycle, blaze the trails. It's the anti-establishment. It's everything about America that was, great in the 60s and the 70s.
The bike is expected to bring at least $1 million when it goes on sale next month. Coming up tonight on Eyewitness News at 11 o'clock, an interview with Simon Pegg, known for Star Trek and Mission Impossible, and now he's in a movie called Hector and the Search for Happiness.
it's an interesting journey.
We'll be watching.
Okay.
All right, George, thank you. Don't look down. Tightrope walker Nick Walenda taking to the Chicago skyline for his latest stunt, but will the Windy City weather cooperate?
And chilling video as a baby stroller falls onto the tracks. The race to save this toddler coming up.
Daredevil Nick Walenda is preparing for another high wire challenge, and would you believe it, is in the Windy City. In November, Walenda, seen here during a previous stunt, will walk a 50-story high tightrope from one high rise to another over the Chicago River. He'll attempt the feat without a net or harness. Walenda will start the walk at one of the two Marina Tower buildings, then travel more than 2 city blocks to an uphill angle to the Leo Burnett building. He plans to do a second tightrope walk from one Marina Tower building to the other.
Terrifying surveillance video from Australia after a mother let go of a stroller with her toddler inside. You can see as the stroller rolls off the railway platform and onto the tracks in Melbourne. Good Samaritans rushed in to help. The child only suffered minor injuries. Police say the toddler's parents were drunk. The mother appeared to be distracted by something she had dropped on the ground. As she reached for it, she took her hands off the stroller. Not clear if any charges will be filed.
We're updating the evening's top stories next at 8:30.
Including NFL superstars benched amid charges of domestic violence. Tonight we look at some of the warning signs that could lead to domestic violence and a program aimed at helping victims.
And tonight, an urgent manhunt, a cop killer on the loose. We're learning more about the man terrorizing a rural community.
Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News at 8:30 p.m. on LA56.
Our top story at 8:30, the House voted tonight to approve President Obama's plan to help Syrian rebels fight ISIS. I'm Colleen Sullivan.
I'm Mark Brown, in for David Ono. This is Eyewitness News at 8:30 on LA56. The amendment allows the Pentagon to arm and train moderate Syrian rebels. A vote in the Senate could come as early as tomorrow. Meanwhile, during a visit to an Air Force base in Florida, the president was emphatic that the U.S. will not send any ground combat troops into Iraq. All of this as ISIS released a new propaganda video called Flames of War, appearing to show attacks on American tanks and troops.
The Arizona Cardinals have deactivated running back Jonathan Dwyer. ESPN reports Dwyer has been arrested on suspicion of aggravated assault. Meanwhile, Greg Hardy of the Carolina Panthers will continue to be paid but will not be allowed to play or practice. Hardy is appealing an assault conviction last July. The Panthers have placed him on an exempt commissioner's permission list just hours after the Minnesota Vikings did the same with Adrian Peterson, who is facing child abuse charges in Texas. Today, the Vikings owner banned Peterson from all team activities.
These high-profile cases involving professional athletes brings new light to the issue of domestic violence. Eyewitness News Orange County reporter Greg Lee takes a look at some of the signs that could lead to domestic violence and a program that's aimed at helping victims.
I was ashamed. I didn't want to tell this dirty secret.
It's been more than a decade, but Nora Caldwell still feels the pain of being a victim of domestic violence. She finally did tell someone at Human Options, a nonprofit that helps abused women and children. Now she's the director of development for the program, hoping to end the cycle of violence for others.
Domestic violence is not something that people like to talk about. They're not comfortable with it. They don't understand it.
In a new study by the University of Michigan, 1 in 5 men admit to physically abusing their partner. The study also lists some telltale signs of men who are more likely to use violence at home. They include irritable bowel syndrome, insomnia, and a history of substance abuse. Steve Churm leads a program at Human Options geared towards men. He hopes the recent attention on the topic will spur conversations and education.
What is acceptable, proper, positive behavior and what is unacceptable. This is a great moment for us, and we cannot let it pass.
A moment spurred by investigations involving NFL players. While the league and its teams evaluate their own policies, Human Options wants them to focus on stopping this from happening in the future.
What we would like to see the NFL do is provide funding on a national basis for prevention programs.
Whatever the NFL decides, Churm hopes this dialogue continues even after the issues are resolved.
I am hoping going forward that there is a whole new legion of individuals that say, you know what, I need to do something. I need to get involved.
Reporting in Irvine, Greg Lee, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Fines will be dismissed for thousands of drivers who were diverted to toll lanes following a gun battle on the northbound 110 freeway near Vernon Avenue last month. That's according to officials with Metro, who say the tracking system on the express lanes wasn't shut down properly during the emergency. Technicians are still trying to figure out what went wrong. Drivers even received notices warning them the fines would go up if they weren't paid by September 23rd. Metro apologized for the inconvenience, saying the fines do not have to be paid. Anyone who already paid can expect a refund. On August 18th, police were involved in a rolling gun battle that ended in South LA. One officer was wounded, one of the suspects was killed, a second suspect was taken into custody.
The so-called King Fire continues to rage out of control through the El Dorado National Forest about 60 miles east of Sacramento. The fire started Saturday and so far it's only 5% contained. The blaze has charred more than 18,000 acres. It is threatening more than 1,600 homes and other structures. Nearby residents were told to evacuate as a precaution. More than 2,500 firefighters are battling the blaze.
A man accused of kidnapping, torture, and severing a man's penis is back in Southern California after being extradited from halfway around the world. Orange County Bureau Chief Eileen Frere has details on the suspect's first day in court.
Would you like the assistance of an attorney today?
Your Honor, actually, I would like to, with your permission, I would like to ask for a continuance on this so I can figure out my attorney situation.
Hossein Yeri, back in Orange County. Prosecutors allege the 35-year-old fled to Iran nearly 2 years ago after allegedly helping his friends Kyle Handley and Ryan Kevorkian break into the Newport Beach home of a pot dispensary owner.
Our victim, John Doe,
owned a lucrative marijuana dispensary, and one of Mr. Nayeri's co-defendants identified him as a good subject to rob.
Prosecutors allege the defendants, including Naomi Rodas, put together a plan. They videotaped the victim's home and recorded his frequent trips to the desert. But a week before the kidnapping, Newport Beach police tried to pull him over for a traffic violation. It turned into a pursuit, with Nayeri running away but leaving his car behind.
And they found that he was in possession of surveillance video as well as footage of a home, which at the time had no relevance to them. There was no criminal relevance.
Prosecutors say Nayeri and his friends still went ahead with the kidnapping, zip-tying the victim and his roommate's girlfriend, then driving them to the Mojave Desert, where they mistakenly believed he had buried money.
The defendants are accused of brutally torturing this victim. They were beating him. They used a blowtorch to burn him. They cut off his penis. They caused him very, very serious injuries.
Prosecutors say Nayeri, Handley, and Kevorkian took off. The female victim was able to run a mile in the dark for help. Handley was arrested after investigators alleged they found evidence in his home, and DNA on that evidence links the others. Nayeri fled to Iran, but was captured in the Czech Republic and extradited to Orange County this week. Nayeri is expected to be back in court next week. He is being held without bail. In Santa Ana, Eileen Frere, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
The House Select Committee on Benghazi held its first public hearing today. The hearing got started on a surprisingly bipartisan tone in what's been a politically charged issue. Today's hearing focused on the steps being taken to implement dozens of security recommendations made in the wake of the attack.
I can understand some hesitancy about whether, if we drag these out, they're not going to get done. I can assure you, sir, that while I am there, while Secretary Kerry is there, we are going to make sure that every single one of these recommendations is fulfilled.
The American ambassador to Libya and 3 other Americans were killed in Benghazi when militants stormed a U.S. diplomatic post and hours later fired on a CIA compound nearby.
A massive manhunt underway at this hour in Pennsylvania. Schools are closed and families are warned to stay inside and double-check their locks. Authorities have put the suspect on notice, saying they will catch him before he can kill again. ABC's Lindsay Davis is there.
This small Pennsylvania community on edge tonight. Nearly 10,000 kids kept home from school today. Classes canceled. Families shuttered inside. Police revealing chilling new details about the 31-year-old man they say killed a state trooper and is on a mission to kill again.
Freen has engaged in a personal battle with law enforcement.
Police say Eric Freen belonged to a Pennsylvania military simulation group that reenacted battles among Eastern European armies. They released pictures showing him in military uniform, toting a large rifle. Their warning, Freen may now actually believe he's a soldier in combat.
In his current frame of mind, Freen now appears to have assumed that role in real life.
Police say Freen recently altered his appearance, shaving the sides of his head.
Investigators believe that this change was made as part of the mental preparation to commit this cowardly act.
Freen's father says his son is a skilled shooter who, quote, doesn't miss.
This would typically be the time of day that you'd hear the hustle and bustle of kids coming home from school, but instead you only hear the sounds of the country. In fact, you barely even see much activity outside of these houses at all.
Sue Hoke is hunkered down with her son Joey, admitting to us for the first time she's afraid.
What are you doing to protect yourself?
Oh, I have my gun loaded, ready to go in case I have any problems.
Police trying to calm the public tonight and delivering a personal message to the suspected killer.
In the event you are listening to this broadcast while cowering in some cool, damp hiding place, I want you to know one thing. Eric, we are coming for you.
More than 150 officers on the hunt for this dangerous man. A beefed-up police presence, a number of officers on patrol right here outside of the police barracks, doing what they can to stop him before more lives are lost. Lindsay Davis, ABC News, Blooming Grove, Pennsylvania.
Up next, find out how a big gut could be hurting your health.
And pieces of plastic in your toothpaste. The makers of Crest responding to public outrage over the controversial ingredient that dentists say can hurt your mouth.
And meteorologist Jonathan Novak, beautiful sunset over what was still a hot day, but cooler, and the temperatures are only going down in your 7-day forecast. Stick around.
The maker of Crest toothpaste is changing a controversial ingredient found inside many of the toothpaste tubes. That after a dental hygienist started blogging about something strange she started noticing inside patients' mouth. Trish Walveraven says it all started when she noticed blue specks while she was cleaning. It turns out those specks are microbeads or plastic specks made of polyethylene. That's the same material used to make plastic bottles. The beads, which are approved by the FDA, is used for color in some toothpaste. Procter & Gamble, the maker of Crest, says the microbeads are completely safe but will remove them in 2016.
A new study shows it's not enough to know how much you weigh, but rather where you gain the weight. That's because researchers say waistlines are expanding and the number of Americans with bigger bellies keeps rising. Health specialist Denise Dodor reports on why your waist measurement says so much about the true state of your health.
Call it a pot belly or a beer gut. The CDC finds the average waist circumference of men and women 20 years and older has increased over an inch since 1999. It's a wake-up call that experts say we should all take notice of.
This paper is very good because it brings up the issue that we are not winning the battle. I mean, we really need to be more aggressive taking care of people with obesity, and we need to measure abdominal circumference because if not, we can miss the diagnosis.
The prevalence of abdominal obesity is also going up, from 46% to 54% in the same time period. Doctors define abdominal obesity as having a waist circumference greater than 40.2 inches for men and 34.6 inches for women.
Men usually buy their clothing according to waist size. Women don't. That's why we don't know our true waistlines. Doctors say to get a proper measurement, place a tape measure right above your hip bones, and that's usually right where your belly button hits.
As for why our waistlines are expanding, CDC researchers point to a few factors. Aging and sleep problems top the list, followed by medications like antidepressants linked to weight gain, as well as too much time spent sitting down. So is it time for doctors to get out the measuring tape during your annual exam? Dr. Bartolomeu Burguero is on board with that because he says knowing the size of your waistline can tell you a lot.
It gives you an idea of your abdominal fat, the one that increases your risk of having diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, and that's very important. We need to know that if that is increased, that increases your risk of having a heart attack.
So while it's good to know your BMI, this study shows why knowing your waist size is so crucial for your health. Denise Dodor, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Cooler temperatures ahead. Meteorologist Jonathan Novak has his complete forecast up next.
Plus, the Dodgers division title hopes take a hit in Colorado. Highlights from Denver coming up in sports. So just one more evening of warm and tomorrow night?
And it's not even going to be, it'll still be warm, but not as warm tonight, just because, just like today was not as hot as yesterday. It wasn't cool, but tomorrow it is such a huge change. You will notice it. Trust me. Outside, it is dry tonight. It is warm. It is pleasant. Live Megalopolis 7000 HD. Just a quick check. A few showers earlier to the southeastern portions of the area, southeast of where the storms were yesterday of Temecula and Lake Elsinore, but those moved to the south and away from our area. And it was a nice day overall, except a little hot, depending on where you were. Mid-90s in Long Beach, way above average. 100 in Ojai and Riverside. But, you know, these numbers are cooler than yesterday. We were the very beginning of a big cool down, which we'll really see tomorrow. 74 at the airport, 72 Wrightwood, good evening, 95 Palm Springs, 80 in Fullerton. Remember some of these numbers here, lower to mid-80s in Burbank and Van Nuys, 81 Santa Clarita. The next map shows you, compares to last night at this time, 8 degrees cooler right now in Van Nuys than it was this time last night. I love this. This is a great map. It really shows the cool down in place. 8 degrees cooler in Long Beach. Okay, so that's the remnants of the tropical system that brought us some of the rain yesterday, Odile, and that's now bringing plenty of rain to the east of our area. But for us, it's a big trough of low pressure that's going to be moving in over the next several days, and then it's going to kind of hang out around the coast, and that's going to give us an onshore flow, and that's the weather maker going into for the next 3 days. That means cooler weather. It means the marine layer in place. Man, big change. No rain, except maybe with the marine layer pushing in to some of the coastal slopes, we could see a little bit of drizzle. Temperatures tomorrow still warm in the 70s, but look at the high temperatures tomorrow. Way cooler. I mean, 83 in Los Angeles when we were at 103 yesterday. Huge drop. Lower 90s in the IE, 76 Redondo Beach, 79 Dana Point. Oh yeah, I like it. We can breathe easy, so to speak. Just much cooler. Give the AC a break. 79 on Friday, lower 80s for the weekend, a little bit of a warm-up next week, but overall, fantastic. We're not looking at any real extreme heat at this point coming back anytime soon. Valley's IE, you're into the 80s finally tomorrow, lower 80s for Friday, and then the mid to upper 80s for the weekend, beautiful one ahead. You might see some morning cloud cover. Looks like that marine layer will be a little thick for Thursday and Friday. We'll back it off for the weekend. Mountains will stay dry into the 60s. Look at that, 66 for a high on Friday. Kind of cool. Gotta love it. In the high desert, fantastic. Below 90 for 3 days before you warm back up into the mid-90s. Next week, a little breezy. That's the worst I can tell you. So good stuff, guys. Dallas has the latest on ABC7 at 11.
Okay, the weather's cooling down. The Angels are heating up. The Angels looking to wrap up the division tonight with a win over Seattle, but they need help from Texas, who has to beat Oakland for the Halos to clinch. Carlos Frias starting in place of the injured Hyunjin Ryu for the Dodgers today. First innings, let's just say the rookie hitters got to the youngster with 2 on. Justin Morneau with the 3-run laser to the bullpen. After Colorado batted around, Morneau again collecting 2 more RBIs as the Rockies score 8 runs in the opening frame, all of them earned. Luckily, this was the last visit to Coors Field for the Dodgers this year as the Rockies scored 16 runs on 21 hits. And we're going to take a break from that now and show you a pursuit, a dangerous one, going on in South Los Angeles right now. You're looking at it here. This is a white van believed to be stolen. CHP officers in pursuit of this van. Apparently it started on a freeway. It is now on surface streets. We're going to find out which surface street it's on when we get more information from our helicopter pilot and from our assignment desk. But it has been, by all accounts, Colleen, a very dangerous chase.
It has been a dangerous chase, and we know that we've been hearing that the van has been kind of making a lot of erratic moves, not knowing exactly where to go. And you could see a high rate of speed just before we broke in with it. You saw him doing a U-turn in a circle right in the middle of an intersection, and drivers around the van, very worried about what it's going to do next.
Yeah, he's been making U-turns in the middle of the street. He's been going on sidewalks. He has narrowly missed other vehicles. So far, to our knowledge, there have been no collisions with anyone, but that could certainly change at any time because, as you notice, he's driving with no lights either. He's driving without lights, which means coming up from behind people, it could be a bit of a surprise, and then the next thing you know, you've got real trouble here. He is again in South Los Angeles, and he was right around the area of USC a little while ago, it appeared, and now he's making a turn and another turn going down an alley. As you can see, you can barely see him, but no lights on.
And how terrifying for any driver who is coming upon him, not even just behind him, you know, just head on, because, I mean, it's pitch black outside now. It's very dark on these streets here. And then this car is just having no regard for anybody else on the roads. Well, at least he stopped right there, or the driver stopped right there. We don't exactly know the identity of the driver. We don't know exactly how this pursuit started, if this is in fact a stolen van, where it was stolen, if there's anybody else inside, if he has a weapon or anything like that. We just know that making some very erratic moves on the highway, obviously, or especially on the city streets.
Yeah, and this is all things that the officers have to keep in mind. All the unknowns in this case, whether there's someone else in the van, whether the driver has a weapon, what his motivation might be, is he fleeing a crime, is he armed, is he bent on causing harm to someone or himself or to his pursuing officers? You just don't know, and so they have to proceed as if all of those things are true, as if he's intending harm on people and if he is armed, so for their own safety. And so that's why, and again, they haven't been able to do the pit maneuver either here because he's on these congested city streets. If they try to pit him, he's going to slam into something and cause, at the very least, property damage. He's going to hit another car, hit a building or something and injure himself, maybe someone else, and they want to avoid that as well. The objective here is to bring this person in without injury to anyone, if they can possibly do it.
Well, and again, without having the headlamp lights on, makes it very hard for, obviously, for anyone to see him coming. It makes it hard for our helicopter, Air 7 HD, to get a good view on this van, to see exactly where it's going, what directions it's headed. Now it just seems to be weaving in and out of these alleys and streets, and with actually no real direction of where this driver is trying to take this van.
Correction for you as well. There are actually two pursuits going on in the South LA area right now. One of them was near USC, not this one. This one apparently never got near the USC campus. The other one apparently did. So LA police and the CHP very busy tonight in one part of the city of Los Angeles. This is South Los Angeles, where a pursuit of an apparently stolen van is going on. Very erratic driving, a lot of people being put at risk. Probably not a lot of folks out on the streets tonight because A, it's pretty warm, and B, that's just kind of not what happens in Los Angeles. People don't walk around a lot at night, I guess, but they're not out there, and that's a good thing at this point because of the erratic nature of this pursuit. Driving on sidewalks, making U-turns, going the wrong way down streets, running stop signs, all of that has taken place here. It does look like it's a loop at this point, which means to me, having covered a bunch of these, that he's looking for a place to bail. This might be an area that is familiar to him, or at least an area that he thinks he might be able to make a run for it if he can just get far enough ahead of his pursuers. Although the problem for him is that, of course, his pursuers aren't just on the ground. They are in the air up above. They have forward-looking infrared technology that enables them to spot a running suspect in the dark.
And obviously you can see that we did see law enforcement staying wide back, but stay with us. We'll be right back, but you can see this streaming live on ABC7.com. Okay.
Do you want to do that?
Okay. Okay.
Why don't you take us home there, Colin?
Simultaneous pursuits. That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Wow.
Kudos to the pilot. How the heck do you
Near Avalon? Near Avalon?
Avalon is a street in South LA. I mean, I don't know where. It's more South Central area.
I don't know where they are now, though.
Yeah, we have no idea. It's part of the problem here. I mean, we could at least know what street he was on and tell you what's ahead of him, what part of town he's in. You got this thing.
Oh, 17 seconds. Oh, they're going in now.
It's on Manchester.
45.
Oh. Smacked him. Didn't work.
30. $15. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, stand by, boys.
And we are back with breaking news. Air 7 HD over the scene of a pursuit taking place in South Los Angeles. You can see the van right there speeding off. You can watch this entire pursuit taking place live on ABC7.com.